Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So first on the list is Christian McCaffrey, which, by the way, congratulations to one Christian McCaffrey getting hitched over the weekend. And as you'll see in the graphic on YouTube, Kyle Shanahan was at the wedding with sporting a very nice mustache. So there you go, hanging out with your boy George Kittle, Anthony. But we're not talking about his wedding. We're talking about the fact that there were comments made by Kyle Shanahan that he would like to protect CMC after a heavy workload in 2023. He was quoted as saying, "You'd like to take some of that off and give it to other guys also." We know that if there's any team that can do that, it is the 49ers. They have a lot of mouths to feed. I know that's thrown around way too easily, but it is true. I mean, I guess the question here, Anthony, is does this deter you from taking him as the number one running back? I mean, for me, it obviously does not. I put it in the graphic. I mean, his total touches the last four seasons where he played 12 or more games. Last year he had 339. The year prior was the split between the Niners and the Panthers, 329. You go back to 2019, that was 403 total touches. That was when Riverboat Ron was just leaning on CMC. And then 2018, his sophomore season with 326 total touches. So, I mean, I think the Niners can do it. I also think that there's a difference between Kyle Shanahan saying that in at the end of June and him being in September and October and needing to win a game. And the run defense is looking a little sloppy. So, Anthony, what says you, Christian McCaffrey? Any concern about these reduced workload comments?
No, because even if they did reduce Christian McCaffrey's workload, he's dynamic enough to be efficient and still make up for it. So, like, he's going as the first, maybe at the latest, third player off the board. Guys going ahead of him, maybe CD Lamb, you can make that case. But, like, there's no more and of course anything can happen, but I don't have an injury concern on CMC. If you go back early in his career, it was a little bit banged up. He gets to San Francisco, all is good. 2022, all 17 games. 2023, 16 games. I'm going to be pretty sure the game that he did not play was probably a rest day going into the postseason. So I'm not too worried about a reduced workload. And they reduce it. Who's getting it? Eli, what do they got right now? Eli Mitchell, Garendo, Patrick Taylor. Like, Eli's nice, but he's not CMC.
They can use some more Debo back there, perhaps. I guess you can throw that in there too. I'm just saying,
just turned 28. I think they just inked him to a 2-year extension. This window, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be a jerk. The window for the 49ers, when you got to pay Brock Purdy, you got to pay one of these wide receivers. You got a lot of people to pay. It's not staying open forever. Nope. If I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm running Christian McCaffrey into the ground until I win a Super Bowl or I die trying. But there's not one without Christian McCaffrey being Christian McCaffrey. And I think to get the best version of Christian McCaffrey, he has to be the guy. Now, last year, number 2 running back in snap share, number 5 in opportunity share. So there were backs who were on the field more, played more snaps, had greater opportunity percentages than Christian McCaffrey. I feel like if you look game by game, like he isn't getting his Carolina workload here. No, there's enough guys when we look at Debo, when you look at all of the talent on the offense, they don't have to give it to him 30 times a game.
Sure. Right. No, they don't. And that's why that's what benefits Kyle Shanahan is he's got the other players to afford to, let's say they're playing week 4 against whoever, and let's say they're up by 15. Does he really need to go ahead and give it to Christian? Maybe that's when he pumps the brakes a bit. He's not going to do it in like the third quarter against the Seahawks in Seattle when they got to make sure they're up, they're up more than a game on the division. That'll be a different story. But
And also, what's that? I was going to say, going back, I'm just going through the game logs last year. Week 8 against Cincinnati. RB2 on the week, 29.8 fantasy points. He had 12 carries and 6 receptions. He is very much capable of giving you 30 fantasy points in PPR and not getting 20 touches.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get to some of these comments, because there's a certain person in the chat who's very excited. He's a friend of the program. He's on vacation. His name is Pete, also P. Diddy, apparently. But anyway, I'll also just say, keep in mind when we talk about a reduced workload, as per fantasy data in PPR leagues last year, CMC had 100.8 points more than the next best running back. So even if he's got a reduced workload, even if his points slip a bit, he's still your number one running back, barring injury, of course, but you could say that about every running back. So yeah, I wouldn't sweat this at all. I wouldn't be concerned. And if one of your league mates is concerned, I would convince him that he should be concerned. And then I would just draft CMC and then point and laugh at him. So there you go.
So, is there anybody you're taking over CMC? Because we both play in a lot of leagues. If you have the first overall pick, and let's say you're playing in 20 leagues and you get the 101 5 times, are you picking CMC every time, or are you trying to get exposure to somebody else? Because I think people listening need to hear this, because some people play in one league, some people play in 40 leagues.
Yeah.
Some people play in the middle.
A majority of the time I'm going CMC. If I want to mix it up, because again, like you said, we do enough leagues where we like to mix it up, I would consider going Bijan there. Maybe I consider going Brees. I would put Bijan ahead of Brees this year, just because I'm buying into the usage that they've been talking about. So I could see myself doing that. Yeah, but majority of the time it's CMC. It's just
I would probably split, and again, it depends on where I'm picking. Like if you have the number 1 or number 2 overall pick, you'll have your fair share but let's say like you just have bad luck and you either have the 1 or the 2. Like I like having variance. The only other player I'm drafting over CMC is CeeDee Lamb, and we'll get to CeeDee